Welcome to Learn English Podcast.
This is where we sift through, stacks of research notes, raw insights, and really try to pull out the absolute essentials for you.
And today, we've got something really fascinating. We're looking at a set of sources that, they kind of flip the script on how most people think about getting fluent in English.
Yeah, it's a method that seems almost, too simple. It's focused less on the heavy textbook grind and more on, feeling comfortable and making it a low-stress, everyday thing.
Exactly. A kind of chill feel approach, as the sources put it, rather than that usual panic we associate with language learning.
Right. So our mission today is to really extract the core ideas from this material, the specific rules, the mindset shifts, the actual practical steps that promise this low-stress path to speaking confidently.
And the material itself, it's interesting. A mix of structured notes, maybe some personal journal entries too, and it all seems to circle around one big question.
A really powerful question lots of learners face. The source just puts it bluntly. Q. Why?
Why do so many people who want to speak English just give up or get totally stuck in fear before they even really start?
And the answer the sources give is honestly pretty striking. It's simple but deep.
Yeah, it's not about lack of talent or time or even money sometimes. It's apparently down to a basic but really costly mistake in how we categorize it.
We treat English like a school subject, something rigid, academic, high stakes.
When, according to these notes, the best way to master it is to treat it like a habit, something flexible, integrated, low stakes.
That different subject versus habit that seems to be the absolute core of this whole method.
It really is. So our job now is to pull apart what these sources say are the specific rules, the thinking changes, and the practical things you need to do to unlock that less stressful way to fluency.
Okay. And the sources get pretty bold about this distinction, don't they?
Oh yeah, there's this line, it says, if you see English only as a subject, something you have to conquer, get perfect marks in. It says it will door bagigi.
It'll run away from you.
Exactly. The very act of chasing perfection pushes the skill away. That's a really interesting foundation to start from.
So that takes us right into the first big question. What really is the difference, psychologically speaking, between thinking of something as a subject versus a habit?
Well, a subject, especially how we often experience it in school, it implies, tests, grades, pressure, fear of getting it wrong, formal study sessions.
Yet effortful work. Whereas a habit, that's more about things becoming automatic, right?
Yeah.
Part of your routine, low mental effort, just consistent repetition.
Precisely. And the sources argue that shifting English from that subject box to the habit box is the secret sauce for cutting down the anxiety and actually making it stick.
Okay, let's unpack that transition then, starting with what seems like the biggest hurdle they identify right at the beginning.
Right, this foundational idea. It's a line that honestly probably resonates with a lot of people.
The source puts it very directly. English ek subject hai, jabki asal mein English ek habit hai.
English is treated like a subject.
When really it's a habit.
And the moment you label it as subject in your mind, bang, all those defenses go up.
You immediately think of exams, right? Being corrected in front of people, that feeling that you need to be flawless before you even open your mouth.
Yeah, that whole framework basically tells you, study the rules, memorize the lists, master the grammar first, only then are you allowed to speak. It's a recipe for paralysis.
And that demand for perfection first, that's what just drains all the energy out of it, doesn't it? People get stuck worrying about hypotheticals.
Totally. What if I use the wrong tense? What if they notice my accent? What if I mess up the preposition?
They're so busy analyzing the rules of the game, they never actually, play. And that means no practice, which means no progress.
And this is where the source material makes a really clever turn. It flips the usual advice on its head by focusing on confidence.
The Notebook LM entry. What does it say exactly?
It says, English learning doesn't start with grammar. It starts with confidence.
Okay, wait. That sounds good, but doesn't grammar matter? If you start with confidence, but your grammar's all wrong, aren't you just reinforcing bad habits? Won't that be harder to fix later?
That's a fair question and a really important one. The source isn't saying grammar is irrelevant forever. It's arguing about the order of things, the sequence. If you put grammar first, the fear of making mistakes often stops you from speaking at all. No speaking means no practice, no habit forming.
Add the paralysis again.
But if you prioritize confidence, even just a little bit, it gives you the push to start speaking, even imperfectly. And that imperfect speaking leads to small successes maybe someone understands you.
So the small wins build belief.
Exactly. They build what psychologists call self-efficacy, that belief that, hey, I can actually do this. And in the beginning, that psychological fuel, that belief, is way more important than perfect sentence structure.
So confidence is like the permission slip you give yourself to just show up and try, even if it's messy. It's about getting over that stage fright.
Precisely. And think about habits. What's the #1 thing you need to form a habit?
Consistency.
Consistency. And what kills consistency faster than anything?
Fear. Stress.
Bingo. If doing something makes you anxious, your brain flags it as dangerous and you naturally avoid it. Fear guarantees inconsistency. So the source is basically saying, the only way to get consistent practice is to lower the stakes, dial down the fear. And that starts with confidence. It has to be step 1.
Okay, that makes sense. So the magic they talk about, this transformation, it happens when English stops being this scary textbook thing and becomes
Daily life card.
Yeah.
Part of your daily life.
right, integrated.
It's like learning to drive, isn't it? At first, every single action feels huge and stressful. Checking mirrors, clutch, gears. That's the subject mode. Total cognitive overload.
Yeah, you're thinking about every little thing.
But after a while, you just do it. It's automatic. It's integrated. That's the habit mode. The goal here is to get English out of that solving a complex math problem headspace.
And to the tying your shoes headspace. Automatic.
Yeah.
Easy.
Exactly. And the analogy they use or imply is pretty clear. Think about the stress of cramming for a big English exam that's the subject model, high stakes external rules, versus maybe just casually picking up a phrase you heard on, say, a simple English audio podcast you enjoy, something with that chill feel, and trying it out in conversation later. That's the habit model. Low stakes, integrated, maybe even fun.
So it's positioning fluency as something that should feel more like play and less like hard labor.
And if you can integrate just one small piece of the language, an idiom, a sentence structure, a new word, without that stress, just through using it consistently in a low-pressure way, then you've basically proven the concept. You've built a little neural pathway.
Okay, so the rest of the method is just about building more of those pathways using simple practical steps.
Pretty much, which takes us right into the 3 specific rules they lay out.
Okay, so moving from the why to the how. The sources give us these 3 simple rules, and they seem designed specifically to avoid that typical learning anxiety, right? To build that habit.
Absolutely. They focus on things you can do immediately, privately, and with very little initial commitment. It's all about building momentum without triggering the fear.
Right. So let's break them down. Rule number 1. This one tackles that internal voice, the constant translation habit.
Yes. Rule 1 is Seekhne shuru karo English mein galat hi kyun na ho.
Start thinking in English, even if you get it wrong.
Even if it's wrong. And they give a great little example. Instead of thinking in your native language, like the example, water lot do.
Which means, should I bring water? Or
Right.
want me to get water?
Right. You consciously practice replacing that internal thought with the English version, should I bring water?
Why is that step so crucial? Just thinking it.
Because it attacks the translation bottleneck. If you're constantly thinking in language A and then translating to English before you speak, you're essentially running 2 mental programs at once.
Okay, yeah, that sounds exhausting.
It is exhausting. It's what makes speaking feel slow and jerky and mentally draining. Rule 1 is about trying to shut down that translation program and just run the English one internally.
And the beauty of it is, it's private, right? Nobody else hears your internal thoughts.
Exactly. It creates this massive, safe practice space inside your own head. You can try things out, make mistakes, correct yourself thousands of times a day just by narrating your own life in simple English. An internal error costs nothing.
And those little internal corrections, like going from water la do to should I bring water? Those are like tiny reps building a muscle.
That's a perfect analogy. Each one is a tiny, unnoticed win. They stack up, they build that internal comfort and muscle memory without any external judgment, which, as we said, is key to avoiding the avoidance. It's practice hidden in plain sight.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Now, rule 2. This is the one I think might make some people nervous, especially traditional learners. The grammar rule.
Ah, yes. Rule 2 flies right in the face of the subject model. It says, grammar ke pichmar bago. Grammar automatically improve hoti hai jab tum use karte ko.
Don't chase grammar. Grammar improves automatically when you use the language.
Okay, hold on. As the voice of the potentially skeptical listener here, how is that not just bad advice? If I'm thinking and maybe even starting to speak with flawed grammar and I'm not actively trying to fix it, won't I just get really good at speaking incorrectly?
It's a very logical question if you're stuck in that subject mindset. But the source seems to be banking on something called implicit learning.
Implicit learning, like how kids pick up language.
Exactly. Think about how we acquire language naturally. Grammar isn't primarily learned as a set of explicit rules we memorize from a book. It's more like our brains are amazing pattern detecting machines.
So by just being exposed to the language and using it, our brains start to unconsciously figure out the patterns?
That's the idea. The source argues that by focusing on using English, consistent input like listening, and consistent output, like the internal thinking in Rule 1, you're feeding that pattern recognition system. Trying too hard to consciously apply complex grammar rules often just leads to hesitation and more anxiety.
So chasing grammatical perfection actually gets in the way of the natural process.
It can paralyze you, yeah. By letting go of that must be perfect pressure regarding grammar, you free up your mental energy to just communicate, to get your meaning across. The argument is that the patterns, the correctness, will gradually improve over time as your brain processes more and more good input.
Okay, so it's shifting the focus from rule recall to pattern recognition through use.
Interesting.
And that leads us to Rule 3, which seems to be about making sure that use actually happens consistently.
Right. Rule 3 sets up the actual habit structure. It's super simple. Maintain an English environment for just 10 minutes every day.
Hard in 10-minute English environment, Meryl.
Just 10 minutes. That sounds manageable. That's the genius of it, isn't it? It taps into behavioral science.
Yeah.
If you tell yourself, I have to study English for 2 hours every day, how long is that likely to last?
Maybe a week, if I'm really motivated.
Exactly. The commitment feels too big, too heavy. But 10 minutes, that's what they call a minimum viable commitment. It's so small, it feels almost silly not to do it. It removes the overwhelm and makes consistency achievable.
And consistency is king for habit building. Better to do 10 minutes every day than 2 hours once a week.
Absolutely. And look at the examples they give for how to spend those 10 minutes. It's not read Shakespeare.
No, it's cha, podcast ho, YouTube short ho, ya koi, English meme.
A podcast, a YouTube short, even an English meme. Things people are probably already consuming anyway.
Right, it's meeting you where you are. Using accessible, probably engaging, low-effort modern media. It's not asking for intense study, just exposure, immersion in small doses.
And crucially, those 10 minutes of listening or watching provide the input needed for the pattern recognition system we talked about in Rule 2.
Right.
Precisely. It feeds your brain fresh examples of natural English. New words, phrases, how sentences flow.
So Rule 3 feeds Rule 2, which supports Rule 1. The 10 minutes of input gives you stuff to think about in English during the day. It's a neat little loop.
A self-sustaining, low-commitment loop. It takes the pressure cooker of learning and turns it into a manageable, almost passive daily routine. That chill feel again.
It ensures your brain gets that regular, bite-sized exposure, keeping the language active and growing without the burnout that comes from big, formal study sessions.
Okay, so those 3 rules give you the how of building the habit, but the whole thing seems to depend on maintaining the right attitude while you're doing it. You know, giving yourself permission to not be perfect.
Yeah, and there's this mantra, tucked away in the notes apparently, that just perfectly captures this philosophy. It feels like the real core of the chill feel approach.
What is it?
It says, don't try to speak perfect English, try to speak confidently imperfect English.
Confidently imperfect English. I like that.
It changes the goal completely, doesn't it? Instead of aiming for this impossible target of grammatical perfection, the goal becomes something you can achieve right now.
Yeah.
Communicating with confidence.
We need to unpack that phrase, though. Confidently imperfect. It's not saying just talk nonsense. It's acknowledging mistakes will happen. That's a given. But the confidence part, that's the key. Why is confidence so crucial, even if the grammar isn't perfect?
Well, think about listening to someone. If they speak confidently, even with a few small errors, maybe a wrong preposition or article, what do you usually focus on?
Probably the message, right, what they're trying to say, the overall flow.
Exactly. The confidence signals their intent, their conviction. It helps you, the listener, bridge those small grammatical gaps because you trust they know what they want to convey.
Whereas if someone is hesitant, constantly stopping, backtracking, looking unsure,
then you, the listener, start focusing on their struggle, right? You might even feel a bit stressed for them. Your mental energy goes towards managing their anxiety instead of just receiving the message.
that makes sense. So confident delivery, even if flawed, actually makes communication smoother for the listener. It respects their time and attention.
Yeah, I think so. It shows you're prioritizing getting the message across over getting every single word perfect. It keeps the interaction moving. And that successful interaction, that feeling of being understood, that's like rocket fuel for the learner.
And the source actually gives us proof of this, doesn't it? There's a personal reflection in there.
Yeah, this really hit home for me. It says, "Jab main imperfect English bolni shuru ki, tab logon meri baat samajhni shuru ki."
When I started speaking imperfect English, then people started understanding me.
Wow. That's the payoff, isn't it? Understanding. That's the immediate, real-world reward that tells you, okay, this confidence-first thing actually works. It validates taking that leap of speaking before you feel perfectly ready.
And that success, being understood, that's what sparks the asli Safar, the real journey, as the notes say. Without that positive feedback loop, you just retreat back into silence and the subject mindset thinking, see, I can't do it.
It builds momentum. Confidence leads to speaking. Speaking, even imperfectly, leads to being understood. Being understood builds more confidence, which leads to more speaking.
Right.
It's a positive cycle.
A virtuous cycle, yeah. Driven by communication success, not grammatical perfection. Which ties perfectly back to the kind of learning environment the source keeps pushing for.
Right, the overall tone. Bina pressure ke, bina stress ke, boss, chill, feel me?
Without pressure, without stress, just in a chill vibe. And that's not just like a nice to have, it's actually crucial for learning.
Why biologically?
Well, high stress floods your brain with cortisol, right? And cortisol actually messes with memory formation and recall. It hinders the very processes you need to learn and form habit.
So being stressed about learning English actually makes it harder to learn English.
Pretty much. By deliberately creating a low-stress, chill-feel environment, you're optimizing your brain's ability to absorb and integrate the new language. You're making the process enjoyable, or at least comfortable.
If it's comfortable or enjoyable, you're much more likely to stick with it long term.
Exactly. If the habit feels good, or at least neutral, it sticks. If the subject feels painful, your brain will invent a million reasons to avoid it. This method seems designed to sidestep that pain point entirely.
Okay, so we've got the core misconception, the practical rules, the importance of confident imperfection. What's the final piece? It seems to be about handling that moment of doubt.
Ah, yes, that critical moment. When you've been trying, but it feels hard, and that little voice pipes up, "Utse English, Nayoti." I just can't do English, it's not for me.
That's the make or break point for so many people, isn't it?
Oh.
The point where they often quit.
It really is. It's your brain confirming, yep, this is still a big, scary subject I can't conquer. But the source offers a way to fight back, a mental switch to flip right at that moment.
A kind of counter mantra.
Exactly. A way to reframe the entire goal. The note suggests telling yourself, "Aja main English nahi sikha. Main ap apni sach badal raha hun."
From today, I am not learning English. I am changing my thinking. Okay, that sounds profound, but what does it actually mean? What's the real difference between learning English and changing my thinking?
I think it's about shifting from an external focus to an internal one. Learning English sounds like you're trying to grab something from outside, rules, vocabulary, and bolt it onto yourself, like collecting things.
Okay.
But changing your thinking, that implies a deeper internal transformation. It's about rewiring your own cognitive processes so that English becomes the natural way your mind operates in certain situations. You're not just adding data, you're upgrading the operating system.
Okay. So it's less like studying a map of London and more like actually moving there and learning to navigate the streets instinctively.
That's a great way to put it. It's about developing an internal authority, an embodied sense that this is becoming part of how you think, not just something you know about. The confidence comes from that deep internal shift, not just from passing a test.
That feels much more powerful, actually. Less about performance, more about identity transformation, in a way.
Yes. And that internal commitment, that focus on changing your thinking, leads perfectly into the final image the sources use. It's a really beautiful metaphor.
The plant one.
Yeah. It says, "Orwa hise English tumhare andar unye la jeji wa."
And from there, English will start growing inside you, like a plant.
It's such a great image because it completely reframes the process. Fluency isn't something you build aggressively, like a brick wall, through painful effort.
It's something that emerges naturally, organically.
Exactly, like a seed sprouting. It grows slowly, steadily, inevitably, if you create the right conditions.
The right internal environment, which goes back to the confidence, the low
The
stress.
soil of confidence, yes. And the regular watering of those consistent low-pressure habits, the 10 minutes a day, the internal thinking.
So the focus shifts away from forcing the outcome, from demanding fluency now.
Right, you don't yell at a seed to make it grow faster, you just focus on the process. Give it water, give it sun, be patient. Tend to the 10-minute habit, practice the internal monologue, maintain the confidence, and the growth, the fluency, will happen on its own timeline.
It really drives home that the chill feel isn't just a nice bonus. It's essential for that organic, natural growth. You can't force it.
It's the core requirement. Stress kills the plant. Chill helps it thrive. It's the perfect ending note for this whole approach. #tag out chat.
Wow, okay, so this deep dive has really given us a clear alternative path. It's about tackling that language anxiety head-on by fundamentally changing how you approach English.
Yeah, moving it out of that high-stress subject box.
And firmly into the sustainable, low-pressure habit box. So just to quickly recap the big takeaways for you listening, make that switch. Subject to habit. Focus on daily, consistent, maybe just 10-minute chill exposure and use.
And crucially, prioritize confident communication, even if it's imperfect, over waiting for grammatical perfection that might never come or might paralyze you along the way. Speak confidently imperfect English.
Right. And thinking about this core idea shifting from subject to habit, from high-pressure performance to low-pressure presence. It makes you wonder, doesn't it?
It really does. If this simple reframing can potentially unlock something as notoriously difficult and anxiety-inducing as language fluency, well, what else in your life are you maybe treating like a stressful subject when it could be thriving as a habit?
That's a really interesting thought. Like fitness goals,
Yeah.
or learning an instrument, managing money, even creative projects.
Anything, really, where you feel stuck or overwhelmed by the pressure to be perfect or make huge leaps immediately. Maybe the secret isn't more willpower or more intense effort.
But drastically lowering the pressure. Focusing on the smallest possible consistent step, like planting that seed and just committing to watering it for 10 minutes a day.
Exactly. Trusting that if you create the right conditions, the growth will start happening inside you. That seems to be the real power of this habit-based model.
Definitely something to think about.
Wow.
A challenging, but also maybe quite liberating perspective.
Absolutely. And if this approach resonated with you, the sources had a nice little sign-off that sums up the journey.
Keep learning, keep speaking, and keep smiling.
We'll catch you on the next deep dive.